8 seconds. Nobody's here yet.
I don't see it on here.
It's a pretty good, it's actually a pretty good picture.
Yeah, it's on here. Yeah, it is. It showed up Raul.
That's you. You're my only viewer so far.
It's actually a pretty good picture. Yeah, it's on here. Yeah, it is. It showed up Raul.
I'm just gonna start talking.
Go ahead.
So I've been compelled to do this, make this video for a long time. I've talked a lot about it before, but I've never put it all in the context and the perspective. So I'm just going to start from the beginning. And all of this is well documented. I've got a couple blogs. I've been writing about this for a long time. But on July 1st, 2007, so 7/17, I had what I consider to be a radical shift of consciousness. And it's hard to articulate. The only way that I can explain it is before July 1st, 2007, I thought one way. I was super brainwashed, and I'll get more into that later. But what happened was the very next day, I had an awakening. And so how that looked is I was on my way surfing on the Oregon coast, and I was with my family, and I was driving down a freeway, and I looked off into the side of the road as I was driving, and I heard an old male voice, and it said to me, you could survive if you had to, you've been trained. And it scared me. It scared the shit out of me because nothing like that had ever happened before. And so I sat with that, had some really weird things happen that weekend that I've written about. But what I was noticing was I would be thinking about something, and I would see what I was thinking about on the t-shirt of the person walking towards me, or I would be pondering something, and I would be listening to a conversation at a checkout line next to me, and the conversation that the people were having was speaking directly to what I was thinking about. So I started paying attention to things like that, staying more in the present moment. And something else I noticed very early on when it happened, even the first weekend, I wake up frequently at night to go to the bathroom or eat. And I noticed within the very first few days that when I would wake up, my eyes would be drawn to the digital clock in the microwave in my kitchen. And whenever I would look at the clock, it would be like 11:11 or 1:11 or 2:22 or 3:33. It was never like 10 out of 10 times when I would wake up at night, it would be a 11 multiple number. So that was freaking me out too. So the first weekend we went surfing, the 4th of July weekend, came back, and back in 2007, prior to when my awakening started, I spent a lot of time in front of the TV. And so we pulled back into Olympia, and the first thing I did, I got out of my car and walked up the stairs, sat down on my couch and turned on my TV, and it was on the History Channel, and the very first the show that was on right when I turned the TV on it said 2012 end of days. So I correlated what I experienced on July 1st, 2007 and what I heard with all the other things that happened to me that 4th of July weekend, and then me turning on the TV and seeing that program, I felt very heavily like something was trying to tell me something. And so that first month is kind of like a blur. I did a lot of research. I remember sitting down at the computer very early on, and I remember this is back in 2007, and I typed in 1111 in the computer just to see what would happen. And what I found was there were people all over the world. I couldn't find any local, but I was finding people all over the world, and some in the United States. But I was connecting with a lot of people from the UK, from India, but all over the world that were seeing these same numbers and having the same synchronicity. And so that was poignant to me too. And along with that, those people that were seeing those same number patterns at random times and picking up on that, they were also being led down the similar paths of awareness that I've been led down for the past 14 years. So that's meaningful to me. And by paths of awareness, I'm talking about the systems that control us. Banking and finance, food and medicine, all of those systems that we've become enslaved to over the past 100 years. And so what that looked like in an awakening for me was at the time, I was working a 6-figure job. I was making a whole bunch of money, but I was working like 60, 80 hours a week. Prior to my awakening on July 1st, 2007, and like even through high school and college, I didn't enjoy reading. I would read a textbook if I had to. I didn't like read for enjoyment. I remember on deployments, I would read like a Tom Clancy book, but all of my life leading up to my awakening, or to when my awakening started, I had never read a nonfiction book. What was happening to me is I would like leave work and I would drive down to a Barnes and Noble that was right by my work, and it's hard to articulate, but I felt like I was being pushed or led by something outside of myself, higher than myself, and I would find myself in front of like the history section. And this happened multiple times at the same bookstore. Like books would literally light up on the shelf. I even had one book fall off the shelf. And so I would pick up these books and I would start reading them. And I would read them cover to cover. And like literally for like the first 3 years after my awakening started, if I didn't have a book in my hand at work, I was on the computer. I was selling cars at the time, and the dealership that I worked at for the year prior to my awakening, I always led like the sales board. I was always like top 1 or 2 month after month after month. And after my awakening started, I think I was within a month or 2, I was at the bottom of the board because I didn't care about selling. I felt like I had to learn all this stuff as much as possible, as quickly as possible. And so my first, the first rabbit hole I went down was our food system, and what they put in our food, how we're poisoned, what they put in our water, fast food. I learned about fast food. I read this book, and the book was presented to me by my drug and alcohol counselor at the time. It was a book called Above All Be Kind. It was one of the first books I read, and one of the chapters in the book was about the mass-produced meat industry and the kill practices they use in those industries. And like literally overnight, I went from eating a shit ton of meat to being vegetarian because I couldn't allow like that energy to come in my body. I also like learned the difference between like mass-produced food and organic food. I stopped eating shitty food and started buying nothing but organic food because I learned the difference, and I learned about all the things that are put on our foods, especially fruits and vegetables. And so the way I ate changed overnight. Can't remember the last time I had a McDonald's hamburger. It's been 10 years or more. And there's a reason for that because I learned about what they put into that food. And so that was the first one. The second, it all came really quick. The second one for me was learning about the Federal Reserve System, the money system. That was probably the biggest eye opener for me because at the time, at that point in my life, I was a super materialistic person. I was in the middle of building a $500,000 home on the Puget Sound. I had brand new vehicles, and I had a lot of payments. I didn't own anything, but I had about $6,000 in monthly payments. So I'm building this house. I've got all these brand new cars, got this boat, and I wake up and I learn that the banks are basically loaning me money on air. And like literally overnight, I went from building this house and having all these nice vehicles to wanting to separate myself from that system as quickly as possible. And so for the past 14 years, that's all I've done is extricated myself from that system. I won't ever finance another home. I won't ever finance another vehicle. I won't ever pay another penny of interest to a bank because of fractional reserve lending through the Federal Reserve Act. And I don't know, a lot of people probably know this by now, but back in 2007, for me, having come from a very brainwashed background prior to my awakening, I had no idea how the money system worked. And the fact of the matter is most Americans still, I don't think, understand how it works. For me, it felt like if I continued to support a bank or pay interest, like I was completely selling out. So what I've done and how I've extricated myself from that system is embracing minimalism. And so that's like my life right now, being a minimalist. Everything I own can fit in the back of my car, and that's a super freeing feeling. Probably the most impactful and dramatic and difficult truth that I had to come to terms with was how our military has been used by bankers since before the Revolutionary War, and every war since the Revolutionary War has been a banker's war. They've all been orchestrated. I didn't know that. So when I learned about 9/11 Truth and I connected the dots, and I did a ton of research about 9/11, and I think by now we all know that, or most of us know that it didn't go down like we were told through the official narrative and mainstream media outlets. And so coming to terms with the country that I served, and being able to contrast good government and deep state government, that took a while. Like I felt completely betrayed by my government. And I think a lot of people struggle with the whole 9/11 thing because they can't separate, well, there's good people in government and the rank and file of most government agencies are good people. They're just collecting a paycheck and trying to take care of their families. So for me, when I learned that the person that I had trusted, I don't want to say family names, but the president that was in charge of this country for the first Gulf War and his son, when I found out they actually helped orchestrate 9/11, that was hard for me to come to terms with. But it also, in terms of my awakening, gave me more perspective on how these systems have controlled us and done what they've done to us for the past 200 years. So the money system, I learned about the military industrial complex and how the deep state And these people have used the United States military and other militaries, but primarily the United States military to do their bidding all over the world for the past 100 years. That for me was super hard to come to terms with, because I spent years in the military. Food, pharma. So probably, the last big one that I figured out, and probably the one that had the biggest grip on me, was the pharmaceutical industry. As a recovering opiate addict, I got injured early on in the military and then did law enforcement. And through doing those high impact jobs, I got broken up, and I ended up on copious amounts of narcotic pain medications, and through some trauma, ended up on a bunch of other medications. So when I finally, in 2016, started this healing process, I was on like 7 or 8 pills that the VA was prescribing me. And I can happily say that today I'm not on a single medication. I'm an advocate of plant and animal medicines, and entheogens for healing. So that's a little bit about my awakening. For me, I guess the most important part of that is the synchronicity, the numerical synchronicity, and the 1111 phenomenon, because what I recognized early on was that was like my driving force, as I was experiencing all of these intuitions and downloads, and finding myself being pushed into bookstores to read books that prior to July 1st, 2007, I couldn't have cared less about, and feeling like something higher was pushing me, and then connecting with people all over the world that had the same stories. That was powerful for me, and I think that's a powerful story. That was weird. I just said that at 17 minutes and 17 seconds. It's crazy. So I needed to share that, and more stuff happened. A lot more happened in the past 14-year period. But for me, the past 14 years of my life have been an attempt to wake people up to what's going on. Why is that important now? Well, look around you. Everything that people like me have been saying for the past 14 years about these people is finally coming to light. I'm even seeing it on the mainstream media news now. 2 days ago, I saw a report about the CIA hiding pedophilia within their ranks. That's called soft disclosure, and they're preparing you to hear the CIA and pedophilia in the same sentence. What should I talk about? Does anybody want to talk about anything? That's scary. Oh my goodness. Long time no see. They kicked me off Twitter a year ago. So what's going on in the world? Man, there's so much going on. I love it when people say, Blaine, nothing's going on, man. Show me some evidence that shit's going on. Well, every day. Every day. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I think Good Morning America broke that, in fact, Hillary Clinton's State Department did hide some pedophilia within their ranks. So what they're doing right now is they're preparing the mainstream for what's about to come out. And it's not coincidental that all of this stuff is coming out at exactly the same time that the Ghislaine Maxwell trial is going on. So they're preparing us for what's coming out. I don't think we're years away anymore, like I did 14 years ago. I think that we're days away. And I think that we're days away because of all these high-level individuals, all all the tweets that they're tweeting and all the information that's coming out in the mainstream. I thought, like, and I would like to get some feedback, but until this happens, until the event happens, I would like to maybe go on an hour a day or an hour every other day and take questions and talk about it. Days away from what? Disclosure and declassification. Finally, I think, of the plan. And a lot of that's already coming out anyway. I know for a fact that people have been executed at Guantanamo Bay. I know for a fact that actors have been executed at Guantanamo Bay. I know for a fact that high-level politicians have been executed at Guantanamo Bay. Pay attention to the headlines. They're crazy. It's very in your face right now. And that kind of lends itself to this devolution theory, where they're making it painfully obvious how corrupt and how brutally corrupt these people are. Like, look at the headlines in the past month or 2 months, and then go back 2 years, and you can see a really stark difference. Uh-oh. Brandy. Fuck, I did. Yo, Bran. Yo, Bran. Brandy, can you help me? I moved the mouse somewhere. I moved the mouse.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's still on.
Move. I don't see the YouTube app.
There you are, right there. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We should have a conversation. We should have some back and forth.
Yoga right now.
All right. So yeah, and I've documented this, and I've talked about it a little before, but very early on in my awakening, I got really heavily into meditation, because I wanted to try and figure out who or what was trying to download this information into me. And two people came to me very early on in meditation, and one of them was John F. Kennedy Jr., or his soul or spirit, whatever. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And Gandhi both came, and they told me that this time would be coming. And I know that sounds crazy as shit. I've only told a few people that, but it's documented. I documented it back in 2007, and they told me that this time was going to come. I thought it was 2012. I was ready for this in 2012. Apparently, we got the numbers mixed. So, anyway, I would love to connect with other people out there who have also had these experiences, and who have also, and it doesn't matter if it's recent or if it's a long time ago, but if you at some point in your life notice that you were waking up and seeing those numbers, and then you feel like you're also being led down those same rabbit holes, I would like to connect with people like that because I've always wanted to do a documentary film. Um, oh, hey, Maria. Thank you. I'm glad I'm doing better too. That was I would be happy to talk about that. So yeah, I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. 28 months. This time I've had my longest period of recovery was between 2005 and 2010, and then I started using again in 2010 and ended up in a 9-month VA inpatient program for PTSD and substance abuse. And I think that program saved my life. But I still struggled. I was still taking medication. I was still on a lot of medication. And so how clean was I, right? And not just narcotic pain medication, but all different kinds of medication, from everything from depression and anxiety to sleep. And so I was not, I guess I was present, but I was medicated. And so this last time when I got free from opiates again, they put me on a medication called Suboxone. And it was sold to me as something that was working great for opiate users, people that struggled with opiates. And I took that medication up until a couple months ago. I've done a lot of, in my time and experience with opiate pain medication, I've come off a lot of different opiate pain medications in my life. The medication Suboxone, after being on it for 28 months, I still don't feel right a couple months into it. The first 3 weeks were hell. I can't explain it. The first 2 weeks are a blur. I was in more pain and more uncomfortable than I've ever been in my life. It was the worst pain and detox I've ever gone through in my life. And I'm still not over it. My ranger buddy from Jacksonville told me that I won't feel normal again. I won't feel normal till I'm about 3 months off the medication, but I get better every day. And what Brandy did, part of what Brandy did, at about day 16, I couldn't, it felt like my skin was on fire. It's hard to explain, but it felt like my skin was on fire and I could not stand still. Brandy is a plant and animal medicine practitioner. She's very familiar with it, and she had brought a dose of toad venom, 5-MeO DMT in the form of Bufo, B-U-F-O, which is toad venom. And she administered a dose of that, and some pretty crazy things happened in that ceremony. But what happened physically is, ever since that was administered, I've been able to sit still and sleep. And so I find a lot of value in plant and animal medicines used with the right intention and not to get high. I think they're a completely different medicine. My intention is to do an ibogaine ceremony when we get back to Florida. It's saving lives. It's increasing long-term recovery for recovering opiate addicts. I know that through traditional treatment modalities, because I've got a lot of experience in addiction medicine professionally and personally, 10% long-term recovery for addicts across the board. So you figure 9 out of 10 addicts are going to end up dead or in jail. through traditional modalities, right?
Yeah.
Ibogaine and medicines like Ibogaine, but Ibogaine specifically is showing 50% and higher long-term recovery after one use, after one dose. So I'm hopeful about that, not just for me, but for everybody else who has been a victim of the planned opiate epidemic and what followed with the illicit drugs that hit the streets and the medicines that pharma gave us. Because that's really all that happened to me. And I've said this before. The harm reduction model was nothing more, and it took me a while to figure this out, but all the harm reduction model did was take the money out of the dope dealer's pocket and put it back in the farmer's pocket. And they planned that all along. I'll tell you something about this formulary. They make that drug nearly impossible to get off of for a reason. They make the detox so miserable, I believe, for a reason. So people will never get off of it. And that's, I think, what happens with that drug specifically. People never get off it because of how painful their detox is. I hope that helped.
Lots of prescription medications are very difficult to get off of.
Borax and yeah.
Borax.
I'm getting better every day. But I like I said, I hear it's 3 months before you're detoxed completely.
Yeah, from the research that I've been doing, it actually gets into your bones and into your muscles. So it takes a lot longer for it to your body to detox from it, to get rid of it. I feel like I'm a midget.
You want to share? I wanted to talk about my awakening, but I felt like I went over it real quick. I think the important parts are that the numbers, and that for me, and this is another thing that I really haven't mentioned before. When I was seeing my counselor at the time, the guy's name is Bill Groover, and he's probably still a counselor in Olympia, Washington. I told him, I'm like, bro, I went to my counseling appointment the next week. And I'm like, you're not gonna fucking believe what happened to me. And I started like rattling off all this stuff. And as I'm rattling this off to him, he's like, I know, man. I know 9/11 was an inside job. I know this food system's fucked. And so I'm like sitting back, like, how do people know this? And what I came to find out was like some people, like the hippies, or people whose parents were awake to this a long time ago, that grew up with that.
Yeah.
People like some people already knew about.
Like love.
Yeah, they are like this kid already had an awareness of, yeah, our government's jacked and there's a good part of it and a bad part of it. And yeah, the Republican versus paradigm system is designed to confuse you. So there's people that I've met through this journey that have been awake their entire life. There's some people that I know that have just woken up in the past 6 months to this.
Yeah, I just woke up in to the geopolitical part of it March of 2020 when COVID started. That's when I started watching Dr. Jason Dean. I was working for a chiropractor who was friends with, or who is friends with him and his wife. And she turned me on to them, started watching Jason Dean, and that's how I was introduced to Blaine. But yeah, I had no clue any of this was going on. And as soon as I started listening to Jason and the things that he was saying made sense, and I started doing my research and went down some really dark rabbit holes,
it's not easy shit to digest, man. It's terrifying. I mean, it was terrifying for me to learn that the man who I would have died for was a mass murderer and a Nazi, and the whole family are pedophiles. That was a hard one to deal with. And so Um, but for me, it was very literally overnight. Like I remember, what was the social media platform?
MySpace.
I remember arguing, and this is probably in 2003, 2004. I remember arguing with individual from the Middle East, and he was talking about how the United States military was used to destroy countries. And I remember being violently fucking angry at this person, right? How dare you, right? And then fast forward 3 years later and learning about what really happened on 9/11, that was hard to stomach. And I think, you know, when I think about veteran suicide, and veterans not being able to mitigate in their minds what they've seen and done, I think that has a lot to do with it. Because I know I know dudes personally that were waking up that decided to take themselves out. So I believe it happens. I believe a lot that happens all the time. I guess the good news is that the show is almost coming to an end, and you're watching a show. I know that's hard to believe for a lot of people. You're watching a lot of actors. Just remember, man, Hollywood makeup, prosthetics, clones, doubles. Pay attention. Pay close attention to who's speaking, who's doing what, who's saying what. Pay attention to what comes. Holy shit! That Joe Biden clip of him talking about kissing his pop on the So pay attention. Pay attention to these actors and what's coming out of their mouths right now,
George
and what they're
Clooney.
saying, and what they're typing and what they're saying. It's getting good. That's all I have to say for that. I'm gonna do this until this is over. I'm gonna do this like once every other day and answer questions. I hope it helps.
That was messed up. You know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, he likes to kiss on my. Oh, never mind.
I think it's George Clooney.
It sounds just like George
I
Clooney.
think. Well, I think it's CGI and George Clooney's voice. George
Clooney's
dead.
Yeah, George Clooney's dead. Biden's dead. But coming from a female who had a very deep obsession with George Clooney and was very attracted to him for a very long time, and he was one of those guys that as a teenager I had posters of on my walls. I know that voice. I know that voice. I will argue that until
all these people that have what did Paul say? I work on your
technical skills.
It's just weird looking at my face on the screen. So I'm done for the day. Shit's about to hit the fan.
My awakening happened to the geopolitical stuff in March of 2020, but in January of 2019, I had been a victim of Big Pharma for a long time. I had a primary care physician who had a pill for an ill, and I originally went in for diet pills because I was overweight. I was having a difficult time losing weight. And so he gave me diet pills, and those diet pills caused me to have rapid heart rate. So when I went in and was like, hey, doc, I have rapid heart rate. Here's another prescription. So before it was over with, the side effects from the medications, I was on about 15 different medications that caused me to throw a blood clot, and I almost died in 2019. So in the hospital, I began refusing prescription medications and kind of had a personal awakening and was like, what the fuck are you doing to yourself? And I started refusing all the medications while I was in the hospital. And when I got out of the hospital, I followed up with my primary care physician, and he embarrassed me in front of a lobby full of patients and broke HIPAA. And I told him I would never be back in the office again, and I left and I never returned. I did a bunch of research and found a doctor of osteopathy that was willing to help me titrate off all these medications that he had me on. I was doing testosterone injections, estrogen, tons of hormones. I had restless leg syndrome, diabetes. I mean, you name it. I had several very invasive heart procedures done because my heart rate at rest was about 175. And as I began to titrate off all those prescription medications and detox those poisons out of my body, every single one of the health issues that I was suffering from went away. They all they all just went away. In 2016, I was diagnosed severely hearing impaired and had hearing aids in both ears. Um, once I got off all the medications, my hearing came back. My hearing restored to normal. My audiologist said it was the first time she had saw anything like that in the 15 years she had been doing the job. So our bodies are made to heal, and people try to argue otherwise. And um, it's all about what we put in our body. We are what we eat, and I agree with that 100%. Go figure. Once I got off all the medications, I lost 123 pounds, and I was never sick again till I got COVID. But again, natural immunity, didn't take a single thing, just lots of herbs and supplements, made some homemade hydroxychloroquine, made some homemade cough syrup out of honey that I extracted from my hives. So yeah, our bodies are beautiful machines that regenerate every few years, and we totally have the ability to heal ourselves. We don't need Western medicine and all of this shit they keep trying to pump you full of. I can't wait till this shift is over because I'm sure that all of that will go away and all the fast food will go away, and people will be a lot healthier because they won't be fed all of these chemicals and poisons. And it's just, we'll be just sitting in silence sometimes, and I'll look at Blaine and just say, I just can't believe what they've done to us, because it's all they've done to us for as long as many of us have been alive and longer. So it
And
really,
so what's important for me is how can I how can I what can I do on a day-to-day basis to not participate in any of those systems?
yeah, stop buying things made in China. Don't eat fast food. Grow your own
If you
veggies.
can, eat organic food if you can.
Yeah,
Don't put
shop on the outside.
perfume on. Buy natural body products.
Yep. Um, there
And
needs to be
don't
more.
take anything pharmaceutical.
There needs to be more community gardens. I would love
Absolutely.
to start seeing those pop up a lot more.
I think they will.
Yep.
I think it should be illegal to grow I think it should be illegal to grow grass. I think you should have to grow food.
Yeah. It's a waste of space. It was nice chatting with all of y'all tonight, but
Yeah, we'll do it again.
I'm ready to hop off here. We're
Thank you.
starting a long trek tomorrow, so back to Florida we go. Yay, Red State.
Freedom.
Thank you all for jumping on.
Thank
And
you.
we'll catch up with you on the road. How
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.